Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in the Group of 7 Leaders Summit in Canada's Kananaskis, to also hold bilateral meetings with the world leaders. Israel and Iran trade deadly strikes for the 4th day as the conflict continues to intensify. US President Donald Trump to leave G7 summit early after issuing a warning for Tehran to evacuate immediately. Group of 7 Leaders Summit being held in Canada's Kananaskis with focus on various global challenges, including economic stability, climate change and technological advancements. Indian Met Department forecasts heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in many states across India. Gujarat under red alert. Kutch region braces for extremely heavy rains today. After successfully concluding his 2-day visit to Cyprus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Calgary, Canada, a short while ago, marking the second leg of his 3-nation visit. Prime Minister Modi is visiting Canada at the invitation of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to attend the G7 summit in Kananaskis. Now, this is Prime Minister Modi's first visit to Canada in a decade. He is on a 4-day, 3-nation visit of Cyprus, Canada and Croatia. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Canada to participate in the G7 Leaders Summit hosted in Kananaskis, members of the Indian diaspora across the North American nation have extended a warm welcome and expressed hope for a renewed chapter in India-Canada relations. Let's listen in.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here in Canada, there is visible excitement in the Indian diaspora. Also, there is optimism about the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Carney, given that the relationship between India and Canada in the past couple of years wasn't at its best. The diaspora says they are pinning hopes on that meeting between Carney and Modi to see an upswing in the relationship. I have with me Harish Consul. He's a prominent member of the Indian diaspora.
At present, we are getting you visuals from Calgary. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as we told you, has arrived in Calgary a short while ago. And here we see him being received at the Calgary airport, Canada. The Prime Minister will be participating in the G7 summit to be held at Kananaskis. And here we see, after concluding his 2-day visit to Cyprus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Calgary, Canada. And these are the visuals we're getting for you from Calgary. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh is there with us to get us more details. Amrit, on our screens we show Prime Minister being received at the Calgary airport. Get us more. What does the day ahead for him in Calgary looks like?
A little while back, the Prime Minister has just left the airport. The Federal Minister for Economic Development, the Canadian Federal Minister for Economic Development, was there to receive him, along with a provincial minister of the Alberta province, Calgary, where the Prime Minister landed, and also Kananaskis, where the summit is taking place, is in the Alberta province. So the provincial minister was there. Raj Taliwal, the councillor of the city of Calgary, was there to receive him. The city chiefs of the indigenous people were there to receive him, along with, of course, the acting High Commissioner of India to Canada, as is part of the protocol, were there to receive the Prime Minister. As I said, the Prime Minister has just left for his hotel in Calgary. The Prime Minister will be staying in Calgary. Now it's late evening here. So the Prime Minister will fly to, take a chopper ride to Kananaskis, which is about 100-odd kilometers from Calgary tomorrow morning. That would be, given the time difference of 11.5 hours, whatever time in India. So the Prime Minister will be engaging in there will be a group photograph with the outreach countries of and the G7 members. Just an important update: Donald Trump has left the G7 summit He's just left the G7 summit and returned back to the United States. So minus Donald Trump, we'll see the family photograph tomorrow morning, and then they go into the working session of the outreach summit, where the Prime Minister shall be making his intervention. As we were speaking a little while back, various issues ranging from energy security to counterterrorism to the use of AI technology, the energy security, quantum to advance economic development, and putting the issues of the global south right at the heart of the conversations in Kananaskis is what the Prime Minister is likely to intervene upon. He has bilateral meetings lined up with at least 5 leaders. There could be pull-asides, but they are unplanned pull-asides right now. But right now we do know that the Prime Minister shall be holding that important meeting with Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister. And that is an important meeting given that could possibly be an opportunity for reset of Indo-Canadian ties. Then he's meeting the German Chancellor. He's meeting Giorgia Meloni. He's meeting President Zelensky of Ukraine, who's a special invitee here at the G7 summit. So he's meeting these leaders tomorrow. He's meeting the Mexican Prime Minister Claudia Sheinbaum. Where, as I said, issues related to the global south, the global supply chain disruptions, cooperation between countries in specific sectors will come up during these bilateral meetings. And tomorrow evening, the Prime Minister departs for the next leg of his visit to Croatia. Preeti.
All right, Amrit. Now, this will be India's 12th participation at the G7 summit and Prime Minister Modi's 6th in the outreach session. When we talk of the G7 summits, for the benefit of our viewers, explain to us what is an outreach session in a G7 summit, and when you're specifically talking of India's participation, what do we look forward to?
Okay, G7 is a group of 7 most advanced economies of the world, which are primarily Western powers: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan. So these are countries who are part of France, Italy. They form a part of the G7. So the G7 summit kicked off yesterday here. What happens tomorrow, that is on the 17th, what happens is there are outreach members who are invited. They've been invited for a long time now. These are generally developing countries from Africa and Asia. This time around, the countries invited include India, Mexico, South Africa, Australia. So these countries have been invited to participate, Brazil, to participate in the outreach session. You could say that these countries are primarily, if you leave Australia possibly out, these are countries from the global south. But these are important economies, important emerging economies. Now, you asked me, what does it mean when it comes to India's participation? Given the size of your economy, given the size of your population, given the size of your market, you're the 4th largest economy in the world today, and you're the fastest growing emerging economy. So the world can no longer afford to ignore you. So that is why you are invited to these summits, because primarily G7 started as an economic grouping, though it's later broadened into a political grouping which looks at the important issues affecting the world today. So India, given that India, from an economic point of view, from a strategic point of view, its strategic importance, its stature in the world arena, it's emerging as a voice of the global south, it cannot be ignored. Preeti, let me tell you, when Mark Carney took that decision to invite Prime Minister Modi, there was a great opposition in Canada that he faced because of the strained diplomatic ties. Now, Carney's response to that was that India just cannot be ignored given the global supply disruptions and its stature. So that is what it really is about. And that is why India has been consistently invited as an outreach country where the developed world sits with the developing world and asks them what your concerns are, and factors that into solving the problems, the pressing issues facing the world now, because most of the world's population lives in these countries. Look at the size of these countries, Brazil, India. So, in that sense, these countries are countries which impact the decisions taken by the advanced world also. Preeti?
All right, Amrit, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. So that was our correspondent Amritpal Singh telling us about what is to be expected during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's participation in the outreach session of the G7 summit. We'll keep you updated. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Canada to participate in the G7 Leaders Summit hosted in Kananaskis, members of the Indian diaspora across the North American nation have extended a warm welcome and also expressed hope for a renewed chapter in India-Canada relations. Let's listen in.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here in Canada, there is visible excitement in the Indian diaspora. Also, there is optimism about the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Carney, given that the relationship between India and Canada in the past couple of years wasn't at its best. The diaspora says they are pinning hopes on that meeting between Carney and Modi to see an upswing in the relationship. I have with me Harish Consul. He's a prominent member of the Indian diaspora here. He's CEO of Okro Group. Hi Harish, thank you for speaking to us. How do you see this meeting, and how do you see what kind of opportunity do you see in the relationship going on an upswing?
We're very excited about Prime Minister Modi's arrival. You know, it's been some recent sensitive news, but there's never been a better opportunity for us to remend, grow together. India is the 4th largest economy now, fastest growing. Alberta in particular is the fastest growing region in North America. There's so many opportunities together in tech and innovation and energy and security and ag tech. So we're very excited. The entire community, bahut khush hai.
Canada is looking for a partner, especially I can speak for Alberta, because the Premier of Alberta has opened up a Alberta-India trade corridor, which is going to talk about business. Right now we do $188 billion of business with the United States and just around about $500 million with India. So we want to triple our business with India.
This invitation has opened a big room for both the countries to work together, prosper together, and definitely it will improve the bilateral ties. Yeah. So I agree that it is going to make a big difference.
We both are one of the largest democracies in the world. India is going to be a $10 trillion economy. Canada is already an advanced economy. There is a lot of scope for our cooperation in the green energy, in the IT sector, in the quantum mechanics, in the space exploration. Opportunities are innumerable.
So I'm very much hopeful that this time ties between India and Canada is going to be more stronger. Our bilateral relations is going to be more stronger, and we're going to be having a lot of business within these two countries. Because if you see in last 10 years, a lot of Indian people, they are flying to Canada, they are migrating here, and it is very important to have the better relationship between these two countries.
So this is the sentiment in Canada on the eve of that crucial meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Carney. The expectation is that this crucial meeting could well prove to be the beginning of a reset in Indo-Canadian ties. With cameraman N.A. Sivakumar, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Alberta, Canada.
The group of 7 leaders from Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the US, along with the European Union, gathered in the resort area of Kananaskis in the Canadian Rockies for the G7 summit. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney welcomed world leaders as they began talks with escalating conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East hogging the agenda. In the opening remarks, Canadian Prime Minister Carney underlined the importance of cooperation to enhance resilience and economic progress.
Nostalgia isn't a strategy. We have to change with the times and to build a better world. And some of you, such as you, Mr. President, have anticipated these massive changes and are taking bold measures to address them. All of us around this table are reinforcing our militaries and security services for the new world. But we all know that there can be no security without economic prosperity, and no prosperity without resilience. And in a world where shocks flow across the borders, that resilience comes from cooperation that starts around this table.
The Group of Seven summit began in Canada on Monday. The world leaders were scrambled to contain the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran over Tehran's nuclear program. US President Donald Trump said that Iran should talk about de-escalating before it is too late.
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war, and they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
While attending the G-7 summit in Canada, President Donald Trump slammed Barack Obama and Justin Trudeau administration for removing Russia from the G8 member nations, calling it a big mistake.
G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in, and I would say that that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago, but it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, what's that, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table, so it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war.
US President Donald Trump also expressed optimism about settling trade disputes with Canada during the meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney.
I think we're going to accomplish a lot, and I expect to, and I think our primary focus will be trade and trade with Canada. It's not so much holding up. I think we have different concepts. I have a tariff concept, and Mark has a different concept, which is something that some people like. But we're going to see if we can get to the bottom of it today. I'm a tariff person. I've always been a tariff. It's simple, it's easy, it's precise, and it just goes very quickly. And I think Mark has a more complex idea, but also very good. So we're going to look at both, and we're going to see what we're going to come out with something, hopefully.
US President Donald Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the finalization of a trade deal between the two countries at the G7 summit in Canada. Trump called the UK-US relationship just fantastic and confirmed that the agreement was signed. Starmer said that the deal covers auto tariffs and aerospace, though specific details were not disclosed.
We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement with the European Union. And it's a fair deal for both. Going to produce a lot of jobs, a lot of income, and we have many other ones coming. But you see the level of enthusiasm is very good.
We are heading for a short break. You're watching DD India Live. Stay with us. Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India Live. US President Donald Trump on Monday urged everyone to immediately evacuate Tehran and reiterated that Iran should have signed a nuclear deal with the United States. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote him, "Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. What a shame and waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran." Israeli Prime Minister Benyamin Netanyahu said that killing Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would end the conflict between the two countries. He also defended Israel's ongoing military actions against Iran, adding that they are aimed at ending the conflict rather than escalating it.
It's not going to escalate the conflict, it's going to end the conflict. We've had half a century of conflict spread by this regime that terrorizes everyone in the Middle East, has bombed the Aramco oil fields in Saudi Arabia, is spreading terrorism and subversion and sabotage everywhere. That's the forever war is what Iran wants. And they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. In fact, what Israel is doing is preventing this, bringing an end to this aggression. And we can only do so by standing up to the forces of evil. Look, democracies have had to learn this lesson.
Both Iran and Israel have defended their recent strikes on each other at a UN Security Council meeting. Iran's UN ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani called Iran's actions proportionate defensive operations following an Israeli strike on an Iranian news agency office, which he labeled a war crime and an attack on press freedom. He said that Iran acted in self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter.
The Israeli regime has once again demonstrated that it is the foremost enemy of truth. It holds the disgraceful record of being the world's leading perpetrator of violence against journalists and media professionals. In response to this barbaric attack and aggression, Iran exercised its inherent right to self-defense in line with Article 51 of Charter. Our response was defensive, targeted, and proportionate.
Meanwhile, Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon said that Iran targets civilians, while Israel claims that the regime's terror machine has said that it aims at the regime's terror machine. He also added that Israel would continue targeting military sites in Iran while trying to minimize civilian casualties.
Iran aims its missiles at children while we target the regime's terror machine. We will do everything we can to minimize civilian casualties, but as you said, it's a war, and we have seen what happened in our cities, so we will continue to target the military sites in Iran.
Iran's state broadcaster in Tehran was hit by an Israeli strike on Monday. A senior correspondent of the broadcaster of Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting was seen reporting outside the building, which was engulfed in flames and smoke. Speaking to the camera, Yunus Shadlau said that Israel would not achieve anything by this attack and that they will see the worst. Visuals showed the building on fire even as a live broadcast was cut off after a loud explosion. The Israeli strikes came after it warned hundreds of thousands of people in the middle of Tehran to evacuate. The warning came on the fourth day of the conflict between the two regional foes. Let's get you updates on the Ahmedabad plane crash now. The first meeting of the high-level committee set up by the government to investigate the tragic plane crash was held in New Delhi on Monday. The committee was chaired by Union Home Secretary Govind Mohan. The members of the high-level multidisciplinary committee, including Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, senior officials from Home Ministry, officials from Home Department and State Disaster Response Authority of Gujarat, Police Commissioner of Ahmedabad, Director General of Inspection and Safety in the Indian Air Force and Director General of Bureau of Civil Aviation Security also attended the meeting. The panel will submit its report within 3 months, which is expected to focus on formulating standard operating procedures for preventing such occurrences in the future. A separate investigation is also being carried out by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which is looking into the technical aspects of the crash. Air India's Boeing 7878 Dreamliner aircraft, operating a flight from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick, crashed soon after the takeoff last week. Only one person survived out of the 242 people on board the plane. In weather updates now, Indian Met Department has forecast heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in many states across India. States in South Peninsular India are set to experience widespread moderate to heavy rainfall. Gujarat is under red alert and Kutch region braces for extremely heavy rains today. Orange alert has been issued for Rajasthan, West Bengal, Odisha, Maharashtra, East Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand and Bihar, Kerala and Konkan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. Rain is also expected to lash parts of Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal, Kerala and Mahe, Lakshadweep, Karnataka, coastal Andhra Pradesh and Yanam, Rayalaseema and Telangana till 20th of June. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.